Hello, everybody. Happy Monday, and welcome to this edition of the Racing Insiders podcast. I think this is episode 171 or 172, but today I have a very special guest. I've actually known him his entire life, and so it's really fun. My guest today is my brother, and he is the owner of Dirtwrap, and he's also partners with me on working on the Cars Racing Show. So I want to welcome Jimmy Schiltz to the stage here. So welcome, Jimmy. Welcome to the podcast.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm
It's been a long
good.
time since we've talked.
I know it's been like a whole, maybe an hour and a half or
I know
so.
it. I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure we'll have something to talk about.
We're gonna try. We're gonna try. And anybody who's here, feel free to drop in a comment, drop in any questions you have. And I see Scott is here. He's always the first one to comment. Says hi, Kate and Jimmy from California, earthquake country. Man, California has had its ups and downs this year. I was joking earlier in the year that I didn't have that on my bingo card. All the things that have happened in California with fires and floods and my gosh, everything.
No, I was getting ready to say that fires and floods and liberals and everything else, So I don't know.
Mhm.
I mean, I guess I went there already, but we
Oh,
won't talk about that.
no, that's fine. That's this
All
show.
right.
It's no secret the political leanings of most of the people of our audience.
Right. That's right. That's right.
It's not a big we don't need to be controversial because we all kind of agree on stuff here. So it doesn't need to be that political. But hey, feel free to drop in the comments. Tell us where you're watching from. And if you have any questions for either one of us, feel free to drop them in. But I think a lot of people probably don't realize how long you have been doing wraps for race cars. And actually you started before you were called Dirtwrap. This goes way back. Tell us how you started Dirtwrap.
So this goes back to 1997. I was in college, as I was studying mechanical engineering, and so I I always drew race cars when I was a kid and all that, and I wanted to get into. And actually, where it came from was that our dad was doing the hanging the bodies on the cup cars and all that sort of stuff. And so his partner was Kenny Cordell, and Kenny was from Crossville, and he was renting half of while he was in North Carolina, he was renting his shop out, and half the shop was Randall Chupp, and the other half was Jam Motor Graphics. If you remember them, they did that. He was the one that did that really cool Ronnie Johnson car and the Ray Cook car way back in the day. I mean, he was like Jamie Kuntz is his name, and so one of those times Kenny went home and he came back and he had like some material and like a little catalog type thing that Jamie had made, and so Kenny was like, "You should do this." So I looked it up and bought a plotter and got the software and everything else, and I put it in my apartment when I was going to college. It was my senior year, and so I just kind of messed around with it and did some cars and stuff like that. But then I worked as an engineer for 10 years, but I did the cars for that long. Just I just moonlighted and did them on the side and everything like that. But really, just because I wanted to race so bad, and it was kind of how I could justify spending some money on on racing that I still I didn't want to what I mean. So anyways, then I moved to Hickory, and because I took a job with Harley Davidson and I was doing concept design work and still doing the graphics and everything like that. And then that was about the time when the printers really came out. The inkjet printers came out where they were affordable and you could actually print per square foot like in a reasonable way. Before that were like thermal printers, and you had like ribbons and things like that, and it was crazy. It was like $3 a square foot to print. It was totally unaffordable. There's no way you could sell anything like that, and the quality wasn't very good. So it was right, and my boss had died in a plane crash, and I was in between jobs, and I was looking for jobs, had some offers and things like that, but I didn't really want to move, and then I bought a printer, and it just really took off from there. That was 2007, and then I've just been doing it full time ever since. So that's kind of where it's at.
Yeah, and you started off with a different name too.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't very that creative. I mean, it was Jimmy's Custom Decals way back in the day. But then when I started to printing and doing the wraps, and I changed it to Dirtwrap.
Yeah. Well, I think it's such a perfect name too. And I think Dirtwrap has become I mean, almost like a Kleenex name when it comes to wraps. You're like, "Are you gonna get a dirt wrap?" You know,
Yeah, I mean, I've
it's
heard that,
really
you know,
catchy.
so that's it's kind of cool. I've probably been doing it as long, I mean, longer than anybody else, you know. Anthony Sanders been doing it for a long time, so he started doing it about the same time, or a little bit maybe before me. Other than that, you know, we see a lot of people that come and go in this business, and if you don't love racing, you don't, you know, you don't understand the last minute part of things and how racers are. It's a unique culture. If you don't get that, then you're not going to last very long. So, fortunately, I've been able to, you know, build some great relationships over the years with clientele, and that's really helped, you know, propel me to where, you know, I can make a good living doing it.
Well, and do you do mostly dirt late models these days? Or do
No,
you just do some
yeah, no,
different
it's
cars?
like, yeah, there for a while. We were doing, you know, some asphalt stuff and everything, but that's kind of tapered off. And so, mostly the late models and the dirt modifieds. That's pretty much about it. I don't have a problem with other types of cars or anything like that, like four cylinders or street stocks. It's just, I don't know, just people call us to do late models and modifieds. So.
Mhm. Cool. And I see we got a couple of comments. Scott had a comment back. He says that they have extra politicians if we need some.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. Everybody needs more politicians, right?
mhm. Yeah,
So
from California.
from
Yeah.
California. Mhm.
Yep. And Terry's here. He says he's watching from Princeton, West Virginia. So anybody else want to let us know where you're watching from? It's always fun to see, what parts of the country that we reach. Oh,
Is
and our
Princeton is,
oh, what's that? Go ahead.
is Princeton still racing? Is that racetrack still live? I mean, are they still racing there?
I'm not sure. Maybe Terry can tell us. Be
Huh.
good. Yeah. So
Yeah,
feel
let us
free,
know.
Terry,
I'm
to let us
just
know.
curious. I was trying to like stay in, you know, in contact with what racetracks are still operating. I know Beckley's been off and on, and but I haven't really heard much about Princeton in a while. So
Yeah, because they made headlines for a long time. I mean, you would hear just about Princeton,
well,
quite
that's just
often.
track stuff. Yeah, you know, they were
Mhm.
like running there a lot. I raced there once.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it was a funky place for me. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Funky. I don't know, like it's one of them things where you just I don't know, just never I just didn't figure it out. Couldn't figure it out, you know, but so whatever.
Well, and it's interesting too because you start a racing business because you want to race, but then your business takes off and then you don't have time to race, so it's been a little while since you've been behind the wheel.
Yeah, I mean it's been 2015. So
Wow.
yeah, it's been a long time.
Man,
Uh,
those years just flowed by, didn't they?
yeah, they do. I mean it's just I get life happens, you know, you have kids and I built a house and then, you know, we do a trade show, you know, so it's like all
Mhm.
those things add up and next thing you know it's the calendar turns and your hair gets grayer and you know you have to get bigger glasses. So it's the way it is. But I mean, for me, it's like I'm glad that racing in other parts of the country, you know, is really healthy. But you know, where I live in Hickory, it's a long hike to really go anywhere. And really, for me, with the other things that are going on in my life that have, I mean, with running a business and things like that, really the crate stuff was really the only stuff that really only racing that made sense for me. And so, you know, there was a time when we had a whole lot of racetracks around our area here. You know, we had
Mhm.
Lawndale. You know, I loved going to 311. Carolina ran all the time. Um, let's see, and then you know with the fast track series, which you know NDRA ran for a little while. We got to run, you know, around some, you know, with Elkin. Again, they're running now some. You know, but you know, it's just a lot of racetracks you could choose from. But now it's like you know you have to travel so far to go places, and I never mind traveling, but it's a big deal to travel. It's you know to go more than you know a few hours away from home. So
Mhm. And, Terry got back to us on about Princeton, West Virginia. He says, "No, it's not open, but he hope it opens back up."
yeah, that's sad. I mean,
Yeah.
it's there's a lot of dirt tracks sitting around waiting for that same exact thing. So,
Mhm.
um, you know,
Yeah. It's a
you know, wish they would. I mean, Withville. I think I heard the other day that Withville is kind of up in the air, and I don't know. I'm not trying to start a rumor or anything. I just kind of heard about that, so I don't even know what they're even racing anyway. I don't know if they're running late models or crates or anything like that. So. But
And then that balances out with where we've got a track reopening, and you did all of the signage there at the it used to be Friendship, and it's something called Motorsports Park now? Or
yeah,
Ultimate Motorsports Park, maybe?
it's Ultimate Motorsports Park, and I
Mhm.
I mean the racing world could use a whole lot more Bobby Kohlers in the world. I mean, Bobby and his whole family are just great people, and Bobby's been very successful in his business career. You know, all of his business dealings that he does, and so I'm really glad. I mean, everybody should be thankful that he's giving back and giving everybody an opportunity to race, you know, in our area, and that, because without people like him, I mean, if there's nowhere to race, you know, what are you going to do? You know,
Yeah.
you don't have have all the cars and motors you want, but if there's nowhere to go, there's nowhere to go. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I see some other folks are here. I see Tori is here, our podcast producer who lined this all up. So she says, "Hey, y'all."
hey,
So she's
y'all.
watching. Yep.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And Johnny is here watching from Eden, North Carolina. And so that's cool.
Hello, John.
And yep. And Mikey is here from out west in Oregon. And he says, "First time I met Jimmy was at the Cars show. I'll never forget the kind words he said about me. Thank you." You remember
Oh, you're
Mikey?
welcome. I remember meeting Mikey. You
Yeah.
know, it's great to meet people who are ambitious and energetic about this sport, because for people like me that have been around this like pretty much my whole life,
Yeah.
it's nice to be around people with such a positive spin on things, because it's real easy when you're so involved, so close to things, and you're so involved with it, to be, you know, to get, you know, pessimistic about it or whatever like that. But we need new blood in this sport to be able to inject some positive energy into what we're, and some new ideas. So, you know, we're in a different world now, and so we need different ideas and do things differently. We can't just do the same things that we've done before. And so, you know, we need more fans, we need more racers, we need and you know, there's a lot of things that need to happen for that to happen.
Mhm. Oh, I completely agree. And you know, being in it and doing this every day, you know, sometimes it's you become like you can't see the forest for the trees. You
That's
know,
right.
it's because you're just in it and you can't really step back. And I see Darren is here. He's saying he's watching. So cool. Welcome, Darren. And anyone else, you know, tell us where you're watching from. Or again, if you have any questions for Jimmy, especially, drop them in here. I'm sure, you know, are there any particular questions that you get from racers that are, you know, that could be added to like your frequently asked questions
Wow, about dirt rap.
about wraps? Yeah.
About
Mhm.
wraps. I think the biggest thing that's going on, that has gone on this year, is the composite panels. So
Mm.
Stacked came out with a composite panel, and a lot of guys are using them. And now MD3 has came out with their panels, and it's comical because 5 Star with MD3 came out with these composite panels. But as far as there's no way that they've consulted anybody in the wrap industry. So they released these panels, and the standard vinyl that we would all use. We all use a calendared vinyl, like a 3 mil calendared vinyl. It's affordable, it's durable, and it's easy to work with for the layman to be able to put it on themselves. The more expensive material, the cast films, that's what we would use for like a full vehicle wrap or anything like that. They obviously, their performance is greater for different substrates as far as going around complex curves and things like that. But they're thin, they're not as durable, and they're hard to work with. I mean, if you don't know what you're doing, they're hard to work with. So, anyways, you go to our calendared films, and they're not going to stick to the plastic composite panels. And I've seen these cars out here where like half the wrap is flying off and all that, you know, and it's terrible. People have asked me about it. Now, fortunately, I have a great relationship with our material manufacturer, and we have a material that sticks to all that stuff. So that's great. But the not everybody is that way. So the standard 3M Arlon Avery stuff is not gonna stick to that plastic MD3. So they came out with this video that showed everybody what to do, and it was like you have to sand your go clean it with alcohol, sand your panel, then you have to paint the whole thing with primer 45. It was like that's old. That's like 20 years ago in the wrap industry. You know, I mean, you still would use it in like but the films have gotten so much better now that you really don't have to use it like in the recesses and all that. But there's no way that a standard race guy is gonna like want to do that. I mean, most of the time the guys are, especially anybody that's racing a lot, they're putting their wrap on, and then probably at the racetrack or they're the day of, and these adhesives have to sit for a while for them to become more permanent too. So because they're all air egress type adhesives. So that's probably the biggest thing that's going on right now is the material sticking to the composite panels.
Well, and I'm just imagining that because I've seen so many of these cars that are, they're brand new. So with your sheet metal, I mean, just a regular sheet metal car, and it's got all the plastic still on it, like the clear plastic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can imagine that for a racer, it would be heartbreaking to get like you've got this brand new race car, and now you're going to hit it with a sander so you can sand it down. That would be rough.
I joke about it a lot. I mean, just because I've been and I was the same way when my very first race car. I'm like, I get the chassis powder coated, and I'm super proud because I've built the car and all that sort of stuff, and I make sure all my all my relief cuts, like all my notches around the bars and everything like that are all nice and sanded smooth, and I put taped up my bars so they didn't get scratched up now anymore. I mean, it's like my last car, I still have my last car, it's sitting in my truck, but my last car, the thing was spray bombed. I didn't care. I mean, it's like you look at these cars after they go out on a dirt track for like 5 laps. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they're like 4 or 5 races, and they look like they've been shot with a sandblaster. I mean, it's just the way they are. But I mean, it's at least in the South. Maybe other areas of the country isn't so bad, but especially if you go to a racer track that has a lot of rocks in it. But yeah, it's I think you have to get used to the heartbreak. And because our cars are basically tools, to try to accomplish the goal of winning races.
Yeah, and a great point here. Bentley is watching from Dominator, and he says Bentley with Dominator is offering the composite panels as well. Yeah,
That's great. Well, I would love to ask Bentley. I honestly have not, as far as I know, I have not encountered Bentley's panels yet with our wraps. Nobody's called me and said that have you. I have Dominator panels. Do you have stuff that sticks to it? So I know the stack stuff that we've worked a lot with that. I actually just kind of heard a couple of weeks ago that indirectly we have been doing stuff for the MD, some MD3 panels. That was the first I had known about that, but I'm not sure about the Dominator stuff. So that's something to, and I don't know if he has a problem with that or anything like that, but I would like to know more about it.
Well, and I think Bentley had these composite panels like way back in like 2019. I mean, Dominator is one of the first ones in the game as far as those composites go. As far as I know, anyway, I remember seeing him at PRI back in 2019, and he had Rusty's car there, and obviously it was all
right,
all decaled up and stuff. So yeah.
Well, and I'll just get now to continue that story about the composite panel stuff, and about the vinyl, and just so people know, with the position it puts the wrap people in is the fact that we all know what everybody, and that if you're gonna have a reputable wrap company, a race car. I'm not saying going to Fast Signs or somebody that doesn't do race cars. I'm talking about if you go to somebody that is in the wrap business and get them to do a car. We all are pretty close in price, and what we know what the market is, and we know what we can charge. Because if we're a little higher, then people are going to leave and they're going to go somewhere else, and we know that. And so we all use pretty much the same materials too. Like I said, we use a 3 mil calendared film, and so if somebody calls us up and they say we have let's say an MD3 composite panels, and we know that there's a big problem with our material sticking to the panels, the right thing to do is for us to use a different material with a high tack adhesive. The problem with that is that let's say a standard roll of 30-inch calendared material. I'm just going to throw a number out. Let's say it's $125. Well, a roll of high tack adhesive vinyl is like $375, like 3 times the cost. we're not talking about like an extra $10 here or anything like that. We're talking about a lot. So and then now you have to switch your printers out, whatever it is that you have. And, let's say it's only the right side or whatever, but you have to raise the cost of your wrap. But now you're raising your cost of the wrap, and now you're more expensive than the other guy. And so now, and then a lot of the customers don't understand that. They just look at that it's the fact that it's just a wrap. And so you're kind of like stuck. Do I like do it the right way and be more expensive and lose my customers? Or do I do it the wrong way, cheaper, and let it fly off the car and lose your customer? So,
yeah.
So anyways, that's where it's at right now. We're working on some materials, working on a material here with some adhesives that are working. It's being tested right now to be able to be in that lower range with the composite stuff. But that's been going on for the last couple of years. So I'd say that's probably been the biggest thing.
Well, and Bentley has something to add to that. He says the issues with the new panels are a fiberglass / polypropylene blend.
Like with the polypropylene noses, we have to use the high-tack adhesive stuff. And like we have a material here, that stuff would stick to gravel. Swear to God. I mean, it's like it probably could, probably could have saved the Titanic if they had that stuff. But it's expensive. It's just the way it is, So how do you draw that balance, So.
Yeah, everything's a balance. And I see we have some more comments here. So Darren says he's watching from Green Mountain, North Carolina. So we have a lot of Carolina folks. And Jerry Mackey is here. So Jerry, we met Jerry, a couple weeks ago. He says watching from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Great to see you too. And of course, your dad a week ago. Iowa is still the racing state in the country. And he follows it up with saying best dirt. So we're not going to argue with you.
I can't argue with that. I'm not going to argue with that. I mean, you see the sweatshirt I'm wearing, right?
Oh, there we go.
Go
yeah.
Hawk, right?
But you've been a huge Hawkeye fan, ever since we were kids. I mean,
I don't know. Something just was, I was born with something with a Hawkeye gene or something. It's just win or lose. That's the way I roll with that. So.
Oh, and for people who don't know, we grew up in Iowa. Yeah. So I
grew up there. I mean, I moved when I was 13, and I'm 48 now. So I've been in the South for 35 years. I mean, heck, that's, almost 3 times that I was up north. And so you'd think I would be, whatever. I'm not one of these people I'm not a Yankee that came down here and said, hey, everything is better up north, and it's not about that at all.
No.
It's just the fact I love the Hawkeyes, so.
Yeah. I like the weather down here a lot better.
yeah. It was interesting to go up there though, because I hadn't been up there in like 10 years. It was really neat to go up there and just kind of, it's such a different feel to drive through just the plains of nothingness, you don't see mountains, no trees, no anything, it's pretty cool. So
it's really neat. Well, and of course we're there and all the corn has been harvested, so it's just land as far as the eye can see, with little islands of little farmhouses and little islands of towns. A lot of fun.
But growing up there, Dad racing and stuff like that, that was, it was like the golden age of racing, back in the early 80s.
Yeah.
So many racetracks, and up there at the time was that NASCAR deal, was the weekly thing, and then the NDRA was the Lucas Oil or whatever at the time, back then. I think that Stars was racing back then. And so, but there were so many races everywhere that and especially up there and up north, it was, most of those racetracks are ran by the fair boards. So, you remember when we were kids, it was like, we went to so many fairs. It was crazy. It was like every other night was a fair.
Well, we raced like 4 or 5 nights a week.
Right. It was like, but in the middle of the summer, it was like fair. We're going to go this fair to that fair.
Absolutely.
And so that was really cool. So
that's probably why I associate fair food with racetrack food, and like there's something exciting about that because I always,
when I was a kid, all I wanted was somebody to buy me the little donuts. That's all I wanted.
Mini donuts and corn dogs. Yes.
Yeah.
And I overate my share of cotton candy at some point. So I couldn't eat.
I think I did one time and got sick, and then that was it.
I was done.
I look at it now, it's disgusting.
I mean, I could. I mean, if I was on a diet that included sugar, I might eat cotton candy today. But yeah, no, it's not at the top of the list for sure. All right, we got a couple more here. So Charles is watching here from Elkin, North Carolina. Yeah, you were just talking about Elkin a few minutes ago with the track.
Yeah.
And Trent's here. He's from Nebraska. He says, "Congratulations, both of you, on your dad's induction into the Iowa Racing Hall of Fame. What a great tribute to your dad that both of you are continuing to work on the growth of dirt track racing. Been some really neat pictures of your dad's cars lately on the Midwest Facebook pages." Oh, cool. Cool.
Yeah, that's neat. I remember Trent. Trent's a good. I hope Trent comes back to the show this year.
I hope so too.
Hang out with us.
Yeah.
Hope he brings a son this time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he came down here like last year and was doing a run of picking up parts for like all of his buddies, and it was like it coincided with the Cars Racing Show and everything too. So
you guys probably talked about this last week, but
no.
That whole deal with the Hall of Fame thing last week was amazing. I mean, what those guys did with that was Marty Pringle. That's who founded it. But I mean, I was so impressed with how they did it and the professionalism. And then I mean, and for me to see our dad, it was kind of bookended. I keep that word bookend kind of resonates with me, because he was acknowledged to where like he's respected for something he dedicated his whole life to in one way, shape, or form. Is either he raced or worked for race teams or whatever it may be. At the end, he's printing t-shirts still with the racing. Everything is racing. And so to be respected and honored at the end of that, I mean, just to me, I was just so happy to see that he was able to be honored that way and that he took it that way.
Yeah.
And so it's really cool. And I would encourage any other state out there that to do the same thing. If there's not a Hall of Fame for your state, there's not one in Illinois or Missouri or Indiana or Kentucky, man, start one, because you will they're going to build a lot of fans up there through that Hall of Fame themselves. So
for sure. And I would say if there is another state, a group of people that wants to do that, come out to that Hall of Fame, that induction ceremony. I'm sure anybody can buy tickets and go, but just see how they do it. And it was just so professionally done. It wasn't, it was just really, it was just really great how they had a great program. Everything was really well organized. The food was good. It felt like an honor. It was an honor. So it wasn't like you were in the back room of like the cattle sale at the fairgrounds kind of thing. I mean, we were in a nice event space, and yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, look at Berkey.
Yeah,
I mean, he's in the National Dirt Late Model Hall of Fame, and he gets inducted into the Iowa Hall of Fame, and he goes up there and cries.
Yeah,
how cool is that?
Yeah,
he genuinely was happy to be there. And that was really cool. It's cool to see him again and his dad. So.
Well, and it seems like a lot of the previous Hall of Famers come back year after year.
It was, yeah. But when here I'm walking around, and then and then the guy says, "Hey, are you Dick Schiltz's son?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am." He's like, "Are you Jimmy?" I was like, "That's me." And here it was Ed Sanger, and I didn't recognize it was Ed until I looked over and I recognized Kurt Hansen, and then I looked over, I was like, "Oh my God, you're Ed!" So I mean, it's been however long since I've seen them guys. 35 years.
Yeah, at least
40 years. I don't know, whatever. So. So like, and I know, it's cool for them. They had already been inductees, so they're coming back, and I'm sure Dad's going to go up there every year as long as he can. So, and Dad's in great health yet and everything. So it's, he has no excuse not to do that. And but I mean, and he will, I think he really genuinely wants to. And that's going to be really cool that they all get together, once a year and maybe kind of, carry it on in a different way. I mean, it's just, I respect anybody like Marty that started the Hall of Fame. Anybody that has an idea and has the balls to go out and do something that nobody else has done, where there's not a script written. I mean, that you have to give them credit for encountering uncharted territory. And so and I think he started it, and then hopefully it's gonna, and he did it because he loves the sport and he loves Iowa racing, and he didn't do it for personal gain or anything like that, and that's what this sport was founded on, and we need more of that.
I agree. Well, I'm just going to use that as a segue. I didn't even tell you about this, Jimmy, but I got an email today that, and Bentley is congratulating me, but congrats on the million views, Kate. There are a million views of Crate Insider videos now. I got the notification today and I posted it up on Facebook. And speaking of doing something that, when I started doing video, I mean, I got gone to this digital marketing conference and I come back and I tell the guys like, hey, it's like, we need to have some videos because video is going to be the thing, in the next couple of years. And nobody thought that that was a good idea, but they just didn't stop me. I just did it anyway. So it's pretty exciting. My first videos came out in like 2015. Now I think there's like over 700 and something on the Crate Insider channel. But yeah, I got that notification that we have over 1 million views on YouTube.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm super proud of you. I tell people all the time, and I'm proud of you for a lot of ways. But like the biggest is a continuation of what I just got done talking about. Is like I respect pioneers in an industry. I respect people who do things their own way. I might not like the person, but I can respect how they like that they went off and did their own thing. I mean, if it's so much easier when somebody else blazes a trail and you just follow in their footsteps. But when you actually like, do something that nobody else has done or whatever, and like in your case, I mean, you carved a business out of, in your apartment. I mean, it's amazing, great, and doing it different than everybody else did it. You didn't do it the same way, and so that's the spirit of racing, and that's what I mean. That's what was founded on, and frankly, I don't want to step on anybody's toes here or anything like that. I say it probably enough, but the sport needs more of that. We need more of people doing their own thing rather than just doing what everybody else is doing. Mm-hmm. It's always kind of a monkey see, monkey do sport anyway. But like, we have I don't think I'm saying anything anybody doesn't know, but we have less pioneers today than we have had in the past, and so.
Yeah. Well, and I think that came out in the, talking to people at the Hall of Fame too, and talking about some of those, those engineered solutions that guys just figured out. And really, one thing that our dad gets credit for is being pretty much the first guy that put together a tube frame chassis. He was a pioneer.
He did that.
Yeah, he did.
He did that. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that was driven by the fact that they were taking, what was it? They were taking like front ends or something from the junkyard and then building a car onto them. I mean, that was race cars before.
Yeah, the front stub, like with the front rail, the frame rails with the cross member, and they cut them off. And I mean, that's how the modifieds are still built. But the modifieds are all, I mean, it's like a backwards engineered thing. They did it. The purpose of why they did it to begin with is because it was cheaper to build a car back then, because you had all of these frames sitting in junkyards. Well, now the frames are all gone. You can't find them. So now, in order to like keep now anymore, the modifieds and street stock should just be tube frame cars. They shouldn't be stock frame cars. It just doesn't even make any sense to like, now they're having to go back and stamp like what, I mean, I've seen what AFCO or whatever stamps the frames, and now you have to put them together, but it's like, what's the point? You know what I mean? It'd been way easier just to build the tube frame car. I mean, how much sense does that make? Mm-hmm. And that's where, that's where technology is. If we had a whole bunch of cars sitting in a junkyard, that's one thing, but I mean, we don't, so.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because it is, really old technology. And to go back to Jerry, of course, was on the show earlier, Jerry Mackey, in the comments, and he has sent me videotapes because I have another channel called Racing Rewind, and where I take all these old videotapes and I digitize them and bring them, like, I connect a VCR to a laptop, like literally, and digitize them so I can put them up onto YouTube so that we can enjoy them. I mean, these things aren't going to last forever. Just, they were never meant to be a legacy item. VCR tapes weren't.
Oh, right. Right.
So how do we bring that
Talk
into the
more
next
about the
generation?
stories, the things that make it a legacy.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
I'll tell you. Can I tell a story real quick?
Yes, please do.
So okay,
Absolutely.
so I'm talking. So I knew this story, but so when I ran into Ed Sanger, Dad used to work for Sanger when he moved from Minnesota down. When Dad was like really young, and Ed had been racing, but anyways, like when people think about like today's technology, right? People like look at like the shocks and springs people are using. Like people are stacking springs and they're using bump stops and bump springs. I mean, the bump stop's been around for a little while, and all that sort of stuff. But I'm telling you that like it wasn't new technology. So Ed Sanger won the 1974 World 100 on bump stops. See, what they did was it was a stock frame car and it was a stock lower control arms, but the stock lower control arms came with these massive massive rubber bumper type things, right? Well, at the time, a lot of people would run these we're talking railroad springs, like 1,800 and 2,000-pound springs in the front, Well, Ed ran like a pair. I thought it was a pair of 200-pound springs. So I asked him, I was like, did you really go to Eldora with a pair of 200-pound springs on your bump rubber? He says, nope, they were a pair of 300s, which, well, okay, whatever. But he back then he said he would grind on those bump rubbers. He had some that were pointed and some that were flattened off and had different heights. So I mean, all the same stuff that everybody's doing now. Like how much are you traveling before you pick up like a some sort of secondary like spring rate type thing. And he did that all the way back then. And it was what I had always thought is that he rode around Eldora probably sitting on those bump rubbers. He was probably sitting on the bump stops the whole time. But I was kind of like thought that he probably didn't know it. But he said he knew it. But the reason why he got away from it is because he said that the rules made him take those bump rubbers off. He said they're still in the rules that you can't run them anymore. So I don't know. I haven't looked that up. But anyways, that's an interesting story that you think that all this stuff is new, but it's a lot of stuff is regurgitated from a time before. And sometimes we have technology things that happen. I mean, most of the time, this is not just racing. This is in life where the advances in technology come from mistakes. And so it's not like somebody really thought had a great idea and thought about something. I mean, even though I have an engineering degree, does not make me smart. It's like, and I also look at people who some of the best engineers that I know do not have engineering degrees because, engineering is all about innovation, coming up with an idea and then, designing it, building it, testing it, and then modifying it, refining it. Obviously there's some technical things that engineers can do that, to be able to, get a little closer things, but it's like, nobody's going to design a car, on paper and then just, go kick everybody's ass. It just doesn't work that way. There's some stuff that works better. I mean, you just don't know. There's so many parameters and so much chaos that goes on that anyways, I could digress. So.
No, but I mean, on the idea of innovation, I see a couple of comments here. Bentley says, well said, Jimmy. And
Thank you,
about
Bentley.
innovation and that we need more people. And Tori's like, innovators, yeah, like you guys.
We'll try. I mean, that's where we got it from, right? So then to tell another story, and is you remember Charlie Capacci, right?
Of course, absolutely,
So
he was great.
Charlie Capacci,
KNS wheel alignment.
He owned KNS wheel alignment. So Charlie was he was the Goodyear tire, even though he owned a tire and wheel alignment shop in in Waterloo, Iowa. He was the Goodyear tire guy for both the World of Outlaw sprint cars and for IndyCar, the way I understand it. So then, but Dad and Charlie were really good friends. I mean, when we were kids, we go over there and to Charlie's all the time. And if you run an alignment shop, you understand alignment. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a lot of people. I'm just saying out there, there's a lot of people right now that race and they're spending a whole lot of money racing even late models that could use some lessons on what alignment is. I'm just saying. But anyways, I remember Charlie and Dad went to a snowmobile race. I mean, obviously we don't have snowmobiles in the South, but they did back then. Well, the snowmobiles, it's like how do they do it? I mean, they're going around in a circle and in the oval, and they're all hanging off, on the, well, anyways, Charlie was like, we should build a car with all that offset. We should offset everything. So it was like, so Dad goes and builds a car, his 1980 car. He built that car with a crazy amount of offset. That thing had like, I think it was like 15 or 17 inches of offset. The motor was way over to the left. The fuel cell was way over to the left, had all that left side weight. And so he was really good. I mean, he won all those races. And I think he should have won the World 100 that year, if it weren't for, I can tell that story too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that story was the fact that he shows up at Eldora with this car that looks way different than everybody else's stuff. And again, this is where you're pioneering your innovation, and you're building your own stuff. It's not like you're just, picking up the phone and calling up somebody and saying, hey, I need to order a new car, and can you tell me what load numbers to run? You know what I'm saying? This is like you're building your own stuff. It's the Wild West. You can do anything you want to do. So he, and this is like the sad, so he was all, Dad built his own motors too. So he goes out there with an open trailer and 1980. And, obviously I think it got a lot of attention because it's so different, probably a lot like the Charlie Schwartz car. They build the mid-engine car. I think he did that in the 85 or 86 or something like that, whatever. So anyways, so Dad said he had gotten, that car was going to be so much better, in the longer runs and as the racetrack dried out, which obviously with that left side weight, it's a lot like asphalt. Because remember back then the world they ran it in the day. I think it was a Sunday day race. And so he got to like third or fourth right there. He said those guys were right there, and then the motor was missing. And he ended up finishing. I think he finished sixth or seventh or something like that. But he was down to down a couple cylinders, and But right then when he said it was like in the 70th lap or something like that is when he was just waiting there. He just ready to go, and then gets back. And so he probably people don't know this, but like he gets back and takes the motor apart, and the motor is full of a substance. It's a silver, but let me see if they take that back. Was it silver or was it copper?
I think it was copper. It was one or the other.
It was the copper, because it was, so anyways, it was full of all this like
gunk.
This like it was like the gunk, but also like almost like glittery shaving type stuff. So then he went and couldn't figure it out because it was all in the intake manifold, all in the carburetor. So of course he takes his fuel filter apart. It's full. Fuel cell's full of it and everything else. So his buddy that worked at Waterloo Industries, his buddy that worked at John Deere, went and he said he could take it to the lab and go analyze and see what it was. And it was radiator sealer.
Yeah.
So somebody came and poured radiator sealer in his fuel cell.
And what he also figured out, because why it was so strange, is that we didn't have that kind of copper radiator sealer.
You could only buy it in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only state you could buy that color. It was whether or not it was the copper. Everybody else had aluminum, or like the silver or something. There was only the silver was there, and everybody else had the copper. But it was somebody who had bought radiator sealer in Indiana, filled his fuel cell up with radiator sealer because, they didn't want him to win the race.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there you go.
Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy stuff.
I have ideas on who it was, but I'll never say it.
Yeah. No, I hear you. That's a beers in private conversation.
I won't even say it then. I don't think I get drunk enough because I don't want to, like, that's just like I'll argue all day long on the Iowa Hawkeye message boards and stuff like that, but I'm not going to do it in the racing industry. So
I hear you.
Mm-hmm. But anyways, it was like, it's one of those things that, like, I don't know how many different cracks at it do you get to win a race like that, And so anyways,
it is sad just in general how there's so many people that if they see you even getting an edge on success, that they want to sabotage you. And that's that's the world. It's just kind of the way of the world. That's how some
Well, that
people are.
and
Not just racing, just
it's no different today than it was back then. It's
Mhm.
like somebody comes out with something that's different than everybody else or whatever, and then then all the people that didn't come up with it, they want to complain about it and get it to get the rules changed. And so obviously he ran his car in 80, and then they put the rules in for the offset for 81, so he had to build a new car, and then he had that whole like fuel cell beside the driver thing. That was like a couple of years later that him and Charlie came up with, and then they made rules against that. And so we still see it today. It's like, people, it's like people don't want to work on their own stuff. So they have to, get everybody else to, to outlaw their stuff. So
yeah.
I'm probably being pretty controversial in our podcast tonight. Is that okay?
Yeah. Oh, it's been.
Am I going to piss somebody off, or I don't know.
I don't think so.
Maybe
No.
I'm old enough now that I don't even care, whatever.
No, you're making life interesting. I see we've got some more comments now. Just anybody who's watching, I can't see who's here unless it's in the comments. So there can be a lot of people watching. But Tori, she said, Dick Schiltz is here. Congratulations on your Hall of Fame accomplishment. So I guess Dad's maybe watching, or maybe he was.
Dad's watching?
It's that Tori says Dick Schiltz is here. Congratulations.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Hey, Dad.
Yeah. So hey, Dad.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome. Now let's switch gears because we've got a couple of comments here that talking about the Cars Racing Show coming up January 5th and 6th in 2024 at the Hickory, North Carolina. You had mentioned, Jimmy, that like, hey, I'd love to see Trent come back down. And Trent says, yep, definitely going for the third straight year. My favorite trip now each January. So
that's awesome.
Cool.
Come on down, Trent.
Yeah. Yeah. It may not be warm, but it's going to be warmer than Nebraska, more than likely. And on to that too. So the Blue Ridge Outlaw Late Models says, hello, my friends. And they're going to have a booth in the show. And here's what's also so exciting.
Does a great job. I gotta say that. Like, I respect Smoot immensely because I don't think in the promoters world anybody understands the plight of the regular guy as much as Smoot does.
Well,
Jason Smoot.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, not all of us not all of us grew up with a, like a trust fund or you know what I'm saying? Like, or we can just like, oh, you know what? Let's just go buy another motor. You know what I mean? Like,
well, this is what's so exciting too, is that I had Jason Smoot on the podcast as a podcast guest, and he actually made his big announcement on this podcast about the Southern Wedge Late Model Association.
Yeah, that's
cool. So freaking excited. It says, can't wait to see everyone at the show. I hope that Jason Smoot brings a Wedge Late Model to the Cars Racing Show.
If I had time to race again, and like I would love to, like, I had a dream about this the other night of having like a cube van with an open trailer, and then having the car on there and having it all match with some sort of retro stripe, kind of thing. Wouldn't that be that'd be like the coolest thing ever, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and we could have like white pants with like our belts and our red shirts, so like we'd look all, oh man, that was back in the day, when you had to wear white pants in the pits, I think is what that deal was, something like that.
Yeah, that was mandatory, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I think it was no women and no kids under 16. So you had to be 16 to be in the pits when we were
14. Because I went to Webster City that one time, so Dad didn't have, so I was helping Dad. I was all the help Dad had, right?
Yeah.
And I was a little kid anyway. I mean, I just was so small. And so
you were short for your until you grew up. Yeah.
So he laughs all the time because he said people would ask him at the time, how old is Jimmy? He says, well, it depends. He said, if he's going to the races, he's 14. If he's going to Shakey's, he's 9. because I could eat cheaper at Shakey's Pizza, so but like I go one time and it's like I had to go up and get my pit pass. So I go up to the window and I'm up on my tiptoes and I asked the lady, she's like, how old are you? And I said 14. She says, well, you're awful short to be 14. And it really made me mad, but she ended up giving me a pit pass, so that was cool. But I was good, but I still think I was really good help at 12 years old. There's a lot of stuff I could do.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Oh, for sure. And actually Jason is telling us, or who, that they're going to have one there.
That's cool. That's cool. we need to promote that. Like people are going to want to see that.
Yeah.
Gonna,
Yeah, that'll absolutely. And he says that he appreciates the kind words from us, so that's cool. But we don't do that lightly. We're not. Yeah, we mean it for sure.
yeah. Oh yeah. I'm the type of person that I don't really say much mean about people. I just don't say anything about them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. If you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say
But I
anything.
respect it. I respect it in the fact that, like, I there's a lot of things I respect about what Jason is doing and what he has been doing, and also being partner with Ray and American Racer Tire. I mean, and if I'm not mistaken, I still think the American Racers are still the same kind of price what they were a few years ago, right? Where the other brand is like out of control, kind of thing. And you start thinking about, I always had to think about the difference between like capital costs and commodity costs.
Right.
And so when you think about it and say, man, I'm going to burn up 3 tires and I'm going to go to this place that's going to pay, $1,000 to win. And now you're going to, I don't care if your tires are $50 or $250, that if you're going to burn up 3, the racetrack's going to dictate you're going to burn up tires, right?
Yeah.
So, how much sense does it make to go there and you can't even overcome your commodity costs?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, people can go invest in cars and motors and stuff like that and everything, but like, man, if you're spending more money than it takes, the stuff that you can't use again, that's pretty rough.
Yeah, and here's what Jason has to say. He says, me and Jimmy go way back. Yeah, you guys have known each other for years and years.
That's right. Yep. Jason. Yep. I mean, I don't know if there's anybody that can prep a racetrack better than Jason can.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
I've raced on a lot of Jason's racetracks. I do have to say, I've been to Antioch like twice, right? And I think there was always that problem getting into one or whatever. But we went there. I think the first time I was there was this ginormous hole getting into one. Like it was so bad, you may as well have just put a Jersey barrier right in the middle of in the straightaway getting into the corner, like where you had to choose left, left or right. But honestly, I never hit the hole. I probably would have had a different attitude had I hit it, but I never hit the hole because I think I was racing against somebody that was on the inside. I think it was maybe Benji Hicks, that he always went low and I always went high, and we raced like that for like 20 laps, and it was fun. And I was like, you know what? That's kind of the best way to make a two groove racetrack in the South. Just put a Jersey barrier right in the middle of the racetrack.
There we go.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Then I came back another time and it was super smooth. So it was like, and I won the race. I think that was last. And you were there that night.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Yeah.
Luke was my crew chief, remember?
Yeah. Yeah. Little Luke. Yeah. And actually, yeah, Jason says turn 1 there sucked.
Yeah, I'd say.
But also he says our tires are $165 for Blue Ridge Outlaw late models also.
Yeah, I mean, as a race car driver, it's like, so like Dad tells me a story from like way back in the day.
This is such a good story. Yes.
This is the whole, like, it was like they were running, I don't know, they were running like a good year or something, and the good years were terrible. And then they could run that was when the Towel City retreads came out or whatever, and they were just really good. They were kicking everybody. I mean, so the first people who got them were really good on them. So one guy got a Towel City retread for the right rear and ran a lot better. He was kind of like a back marker car, I think, the whole time, or somewhere like that. And then he ran a lot better. Well, then but he was the only one that was on it. Like maybe he finished in the top 5, third, something like that. I don't know, something like that. But so anyways, they had a meeting and said, who wants to run the Towel City retreads, or whatever. And, he was a big proponent. He was like, yeah, I want. But the thing about it is when everybody got on the same tire, then he went back to running where he was at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And they were more expensive. And so it's like, that's one thing about, like, honestly, in the crate deal, the best tire we had was the Goodyear, because it really wasn't very good, but it didn't matter. It wasn't very good. I'll tell you what was great about that tire is the fact that you could, in a crate car, you could be too free getting in the corner on a Goodyear, like where you honestly had to let off the gas getting in the corner. When the racetrack dried out a little bit, you had to let off the gas, and then you had to know how to drive your car. Now, when you put us on these gummy tires, I don't think you can get a crate car free enough in the corner on a tire like that. You know what I mean? Anybody can drive it. And so it's like, what's the point? What is the point when you put everybody on the gummy stuff like that? And then they're expensive, so I don't know. I mean, everybody likes going fast, but the best racing is always when you go slow, when it slicks off and dries out.
Yeah. And we got a couple more comments here. So Shane says, back to the Eldora story, says, sons of bitches, people suck that did that to your dad. And congratulations to you and your dad. So yeah, congratulations to us.
Yeah, it was. It was
really cool.
That's a shitty deal like that. What happened?
So, yeah. The Hall of Fame is good. The Eldora thing bad. Yeah. For sure. Yes. And Mike Abner says, congrats, Dick. Glad to see this. Well deserved. And see you guys at the show. You guys have a first class operation. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really hard at it. Yeah, we do our best. And then he's got a follow-up comment. He says, how about a 525 engine being cheaper than a 604? Jason Smoot has the right thing going to save local late model racing.
Is the 525 cheaper than the 604?
It's not. I mean, not like the map, but I will say, and then I don't want to start anything either, but today's 602s are in the 6,000 range, which is what 604s were 10 years ago when I started Crate Insider, which is crazy. The 604s are in the 8s, and I want to say that the 525s in the 11. But it depends on what you're going to do. If you're going to run a 525 right out of the box, or if you're going to have blueprinting done to a 604. I mean, at some point you kind of end up a little bit equal there with less horsepower. So I mean, there's certainly an argument to be made there. If you're going to spend this much, well, I mean, you and I have made the decision before, like, well, when you compare, like, if it's double, we wouldn't go that far, but if it's just a little bit more, you might as well get the really nice thing. But I think there's also less 604 racing here in this part of North Carolina, and with the Blue Ridge late models, there's a whole series, and you can run those 525s, and it's great competition and really good racing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, well, it's my opinion, but I think this goes for all racing. This isn't just dirt racing. This is asphalt racing, cup racing, Formula One. I don't give a shit about what racing it is. Is that there's a ratio between power and grip.
Mm-hmm.
The greater the ratio between power and grip, the better racing you're going to have. The less ratio you have, the worse racing you're going to have. The worst thing that you can do is take power away from everybody and give them more grip. All you've done is turn it into turn into slot car racing. If you want to see racing and you want to see drivers, give them more power and take away grip.
Yeah.
And so in today, and you would think that in today's world that we should be able to create horsepower cheaper than ever before. As motors get better and better, now you got the super guys that are 900 plus and all that stuff, and they're $60,000 more. Not everybody needs that. If you're going to have but then you have the 604 that makes like 450, and what's a 525? 550.
525.
Okay, so is it that hard to make a motor that you can to make a cheap motor that you can make 650 horsepower from, and put everybody on a take away grip? You know what I mean? We don't need 16-inch wide tires. You know what I'm saying? And so, and then all right, see if you can hold that wide open.
Well, we've got some great comments here, and we've got a huge announcement actually right here from the Southern Wedge Late Model Association. Actually, I'm sure for Blue Ridge Late Models, but we got a huge announcement. They've got a 5,000 to win an all 525 race in 2024. Also, someone will leave with a new 525, and you heard it here first.
Yeah, that kicks ass.
I may not have the biggest podcast in the world, but we do uncover some really cool information here. and I
That's
love it.
awesome. That's
And
awesome. Everybody should be, excited about that.
yeah, and he follows it up saying that this has got to be at City Chevrolet, which there's this whole thing about what you can advertise. So this isn't me advertising. It's not me, so I'm not going to get in trouble here. But just a comment that says 8755 to 9,000 at Chevrolet for a 525.
Yeah.
If that is the case, then yeah, that is cheaper than a 604. Well, it depends on what we're comparing here. Map pricing is the minimum advertised price is much higher than that. But the Southern Wedge Late Model Association, Blue Ridge Late Models, they're going to get you a good connection there for sure.
Yeah.
And back to your tires, Jimmy. Benji Hicks is here and he says, "Say it louder, Jimmy. Bring back hard tires all the way around." Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just saying that you put soft tires on cars and give everybody a whole bunch of grip. I mean, any jackleg can get in the corner. And stand on the.
When here's, I know that you've got another story that is actually outside of dirt racing, but we've known Morgan Shepherd for a really long time. He's the oldest, NASCAR driver. I don't know if he probably would still get behind the wheel if somebody offered him a ride, but he was racing for, so many years with all those squirrely NASCAR things, but all those NASCAR cars have changed so much. So do you remember how he went to that one race? I think it was an Xfinity race, and he came back and he was telling you guys about it. And he's like, I mean, this is just, he was so used to sliding all over the track, but with these new cars, not in the last couple of years, this is probably 8 years ago, but he's like, it was just like glued to the racetrack.
Oh yeah.
And he didn't know what to do. He's like, this isn't even really racing. I mean, I don't want to quote him. If you can butt in at any time.
It's an age-old thing. You know what? Go back and watch those old Cup races, like when they had them old from the early '80s. Go back to watch them go to Darlington and watch those cars move around, getting in the corner. Or go earlier than that. Look at them old David Pearson, era Cale Yarborough, Richard Petty ones, and watch them in Daytona with them little narrow tires. And them guys are all like. They're doing this down the straightaway and getting in the corner. Now these guys are just stuck. I don't. I mean, it's, people know this or whatever. But take a Formula One car.
Yeah.
Do you know that they have twice as much downforce than what the cars weigh?
It doesn't surprise me.
So
otherwise the damn things are airplane wings and they would fly.
Yeah, you could take the racetrack and turn it upside down and they would stick to it.
Wow.
I'm just saying. That's how much grip they have.
Oh,
but back in the day when you didn't have that aerodynamic grip and you didn't have the tire grip, man, and them guys drove the shit out of those things. I mean, and the racing was great, know, and so, you just have to get it to where, you can't make everybody so good getting in the corner. You know, that's the problem. When everybody's so good getting in, it's bring the finesse. There you go. You need finesse. You need more motor and less grip.
Yeah, that's what Shane says. For anybody who's just listening, bring the finesse back in. Anybody can be fast on a tacky track.
Another thing about a tacky track is, what tacky tracks and big race tracks do? They make you spend a whole lot of money. Mm-hmm. Because you can. I mean, you could go to a place like Withville or Eldora when it's tacky. You could use 2,000 horsepower if you had it. Mm-hmm. But then, when it comes to race, you really need about 300. I mean, when it slicks off, if you can get the slick off,
Well, Jason's listening because he says all the Southern Wedge Late Model Association cars will be on a Pro 3/56. I'm not really sure how to say
it's
this.
A harder tire. And it's a harder, affordable tire.
On all four corners.
I'm just saying, if anybody's trying to do something for the racer that really loves to race, and you want to go out and you don't want to, mortgage your house and your kids' house and your grandkids' houses, then I mean, Jason's doing a better job than anybody else is, and he's doing things that, I mean, he's a pioneer. He's doing things that nobody else is doing, so.
Well, what I think I like better even than for the racer is that this is for the fans, because that's going to be so much fun to watch. I mean, the Wedge late models in the first place are definitely going to have a striking appearance. You'll be able to tell them apart from any other cars, but then also to see them kind of be squirrely and travel all over the racetrack is going to be so much fun to watch, which will also increase the competition. It won't just be a really fast parade. It'll be
it's a little counterintuitive with the wedge, because the wedge cars make a ton of downforce, which is
for sure.
great,
Yeah.
so you have to negate the downforce advantage by putting them on a like a crazy hard tire, or slick tire, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yes, the look of them and all that stuff, and getting away from all this, cookie cutter stuff and everything is going to be really cool.
Yeah. Well, and I know we've been talking for like for about an hour, but we should probably say a couple of things about the Cars Racing Show coming up in January.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. You want me to talk about the Cars Racing Show general, or Dirtwrap at Cars Racing Show?
Either one.
Okay. Well,
Yes.
So I don't know if anybody, because I just got it done before the trade show last year, so I didn't really have it. I didn't really announce it or anything, but the whole wrap builder thing that I have, so I've added more pieces to that, for this year, and there, more combinations. So now I think I'm up to like 30 million different combinations. So that is to where it's like, I can go get a few pieces. I'll give you just a second.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna add a couple of the comments here that people have said, and I know Jimmy can hear me. So Mike mentions, look at the go-karts. Winning is a tire game now. Absolutely. And it's crazy. A lot of those go-kart teams will have 30, 40 sets of tires in there, and it blows my mind. Southern Wedge has a 5,200 engine claim rule. Well, that's interesting. So that would prevent people from wanting to spend more on their money or more on their engine. And then Benji mentions to have hard tires and take away the spoiler.
There you go. See,
and then
Benji,
he's laughing.
Now, I don't know. Did anybody watch Benji at Charlotte?
I heard all about it.
Hey, you didn't go. I'll tell you.
But I heard,
So Charlotte was like kind of typical Charlotte, hard, end up rubbering up right away. So nobody's passing anybody or anything like that. Benji drove his ass off. He was the best part of the show when I went that night. So hats off to Benji, because what he did was not very easy. And and for him to make the race, and again, I mean, it's like Benji builds his own car, for God's sake.
Yeah.
So how do you not support somebody who is doing their own thing? I wish that more people did their own thing.
I agree.
I mean, it's like you look at whether or not you love him or hate him or whatever, but Bloomquist, that guy did his own thing for this whole career.
Yeah.
And, he innovated so many things in dirt late model racing, and that's what he should get credit for. He won a bunch of races, but that's what he should get credit for.
Yeah. So you're going to show us your thing. I'll probably
off
the screen so you get the whole screen here.
So I've got all these panels here. So it's like, so what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to pick your panel color. So this is just a blue panel, and so everything on here is just a stock type piece of so it's just black and white. But then you'll have these different pieces. Like you can say, hey, I want to have, say, red skirts. So I've got the fixture where I can put it in, but I mean it's over there, so I don't want to take the thing over there. But you can put a skirt on it. But you could change the skirts if you wanted to, and then you can put a number in there. And there's all different colors of different things, and we've got all the fluorescents and chromes and all that sort of stuff. This is a red, and we got the blends at the bottom so anyways, stop. If you're what it's meant for is that if you want to be different and be unique, when you pick your body panel colors and because that's really where it comes. If you just, I know what it's like to order a race car, and they say, what color do you want your car? And then you try to be creative, but maybe you haven't talked to your wrap guy or whatever like that you might say, oh, I just want it all black. Well, it limits a lot of what you can do when it's all black. But when you can, because we're going to wrap the side panels, all the sides are always wrapped, but you're not going to wrap the skirts. You're not going to wrap the nose. We're not going to wrap the roof. We're not going to wrap the roof posts. I mean, you can wrap the roof post, but it's not very practical. Nobody really wants to do that. And so So this is a way for you to create a unique look that that you're going to look different than everybody else. And so sometimes we choose those colors, like for instance, like Kyle Bronson with his orange. You know, the biggest reason why he's orange is because nobody else is orange.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't even like orange. He doesn't like orange. He doesn't like yellow. He really would rather blue. But the fact is that nobody else has orange, and you can pick them out on the racetrack more than anybody else. So so those types of things, when you go to a racetrack and there's 22 all black cars, but then somebody, you know, has a yellow one or something like that sticks out to you, you know, that's you create fans that way because you have unique look like Richard Petty, you know, with his Petty blue. All of his cars are Petty blue. It's like your signature, you know. So and so create a signature look of your own.
Well, and it's so cool that you've done this because for anybody, he's got his whole fixture and they've got all these little holes in them. You can hold up your
yeah, they all have little registration holes right here, and they line up in pins. So so we can just put the pieces up there and say, wow, I want to see what that design looks like with orange skirts instead of yellow skirts or whatever, and we can just pop them in and out like these, you know, like a paint by numbers kind of thing. And so I don't know, like a great example. I don't know if anybody saw Jeff Smith's car this year. That was a perfect example. So I tell you how that went down. So Jeff is a great friend of mine for a long time, and so,
we've definitely talked about Freddie and what a big loss that is for racing.
You know, legend, great, you know, like obviously like on the Mount Rushmore of the greatest dirt late model drivers of all time, and he was a better person, you know. But so Jeff and Heather and Zach come by the booth and they're all talking to me, hey, about the next year's car, and it was like it was all three of them that were talking to me, and they all have three different ideas. That was like impossible for me to like. It was like gonna like it was gonna be really hard for me to kind of like put their ideas together and to where they're all, and it was going to be a nightmare because it was like I know I was going to get it. One of them was going to like it, and the other one was going to like it. So I said, "This is what I told them," and I meant it in the nicest way. I said, "You know what y'all need to do? Y'all need to get your happy asses over to that unit over there, and y'all play with this thing. And when you get something you like, you just let me know." And sure enough, that their car this year with the gray and that green yellow fade in it and the blue and all that sort of stuff, that came 100% from that deal there.
Wow.
And so that was the purpose of the whole thing, you know, to be able for people to, because otherwise it's so, I call it a visualizer because it's impossible for people to visualize these colors in their head. And so what they do is they see somebody else's car and I saw this car and I want my car to look like that. And that's cool. You get inspired by different things, but to be truly your own and to create a look of your own, I just wanted to do this to be able to help people, you know, get there, faster, and get there, period. Because otherwise you get nervous and you want to be safe and say, I'll just get a black race car. And then I call them monochromatic cars. That's where it's like black, white, gray, and some color.
Yeah.
Pick your color: black, orange, fluorescent orange, yellow, red, green, pink. They're, and they look cool. I mean, they're cool, but think about how many of them do you see out there? A lot of them. You know. So be different. Be unique.
Well, and that's probably been a trend. Are you seeing any other color trends other than all black cars?
No, not really. I mean, maybe some white stuff, but I haven't really seen nobody else has really been, risky at all. I don't, did you see Davenport's car from the World with the green and the black?
I didn't.
That ended up going black. It was like mostly black and with the green and the white. That could have went a couple of different directions. I think it looked good when it was all said and done. But it could have been a little more green, say, for instance. But anyways.
And you do Jonathan's cars, right? Yeah. Justin says, wrap the deck.
Yeah. Justin, the next time I
see face palm, wrap the deck, face palm.
I'm I'm calling them. He's gonna come help me. Mm-hmm.
There's got to be a story there.
Well, they suck. It's like the
Oh.
worst thing you could possibly do to wrap a deck. And I honestly, the only decks I've wrapped were for Clint Boyer when they came out with those, when Lucas did the whole retro dirt track world championship kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So here you got, so like we're talking like the last race of the year. Everybody's all bodied up and everything, and they've got, you know, like, and it was like the blue. The last one I did, I think, was for the blue Pete car for Don O'Neill, and here's things blue and white. But then here we want to go to his yellow and red retro car. Well, none of that stuff's going to match. So, and those guys didn't want to, like, you know, change the aluminum out for one race. They're like, in your wrap, I mean, it's like an all-day process.
Yeah, Justin says, I did one. That's it.
Well, that's when you say you did two, your first one and your last one. Yeah. But I tell you, you know, like, you can't ever say never, because sometimes there's a situation that happens to where you're kind of forced to do it. Like, what am I going to do? Tell Boyer that, no, I'm not going to wrap the deck. You know, I'm not going to do that. You know, he was probably my biggest customer at the time. So.
Yeah, because you did all of his cars. And Hunter Weaver is here, of course, the voice. It says, hey, Kate and Jimmy. So I like,
hey, Hunter.
Everybody. Yeah, thanks so much for watching. Gosh, so Cars Racing
so let's talk about the Cars Racing Show. So it's going to be a great time again, like always. I think we build on this show every year. Man, we're really hoping to be able to solidify some more of the small car stuff there. Really working on that. Working on our seminars, trying to get some more some different seminars this year. The kind of the fun thing, it's actually a kind of a fun thing about the Cars Racing Show, as Kate and I have embraced this, that there are a lot of decisions and commitments that have to be made when you put a trade show on. It's not cheap to rent a convention center. Just telling everybody. Like, you know, the reason why nobody does it is because it's hard to do. Just saying. And so you have to commit like sometimes years ahead of time, you know? And so, so we have a lot of things that we have to commit to on our side that we have to pay for regardless of how it happens. But then we all know the racing industry is not the most
not big planners. Because
there you go. Okay, you can say
you can't plan for Saturday night because you don't know what's going to happen Friday night.
But the flip side of that is, like, I think anybody who knows me, and you might get some comments on that, like, they would know that, like, I don't think I have ever been known as being early to anything. Probably
my nickname used to be for you.
What was that?
LMJ. So I would just refer to you as LMJ.
Last minute Jimmy.
Yep. But you're Jimmy's
just
actually
the way it is. It's like, you know, but I mean, it's just I mean, even when there was most of the time it was because I was working on something else and I had to, like, okay, now I got to run out here and I'm going to be late or whatever, and, like, I just don't want to miss hot laps, but I'd miss hot laps half the time, whatever. But then again, there's a mentality factor in here too. There would be times where it'd be like, you know what, I've kind of, like, got a free. I could leave right now and I could be there like two hours early, and I'd be like, I don't want to do that. There's like, I'll go do something else.
But now working together, I mean, gosh, there's sometimes you're ahead of me in, like, our projects, and you get stuff done, and I'm over here, and you're like, are you going to get this done? Are you going to get this done? We need to get this done. Are you going to get this done?
Well,
and that was me before.
That's because, like, you know, I am a planner. Like, so I am a planner. And so there are things that we run into that we have lead times on that are not in our control.
Right.
Now, if it's in my control, I feel like I can do anything. Like, I totally overextend myself on, you know, repeatedly. I can say, oh yeah, I can do that. And then, you know, like, all the phone calls I get, hey, I know you're really busy. Is there any way that you could, you know, get me a wrap out tomorrow? I'll be like, oh yeah, I can probably, hey, I'm sure I can cram that in there, you know, and I do. But but when you think you can control, but then there are some things that you cannot control. Yeah. And so you have to do it. And, you know,
production and shipping and all of that. But you're ahead of the game. And let's see, we got a couple more comments. Danny says, hey, East Coast. Well, hey there, West Coast. He's also here from Oregon. And Hunter says, looking forward to my Blue Ridge Outlaws and Southern Wedge late models. Of course, there in the show, and he says next year is going to be huge. Yeah, we've heard some of those comments from Jason about some of the cool things that Blue Ridge Late Models and the Southern Wedge Late Model associations are doing. So,
Oh yeah, if they
yeah.
put them on alcohol, then that would really bring back all the memories of like just going to those racetracks and like getting out of the truck, and then all you could smell that methanol in the air, and you're like, oh wow, now
Yeah.
I'm at a race, you know.
Right.
So
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
I don't even
But
think
yeah.
I don't think the sprint cars even run methanol anymore. I don't think. I don't think anybody does. If somebody can correct me, I don't know. But
Well, I mean, west of the Mississippi, all of IMCA, like 604s, that's all methanol.
oh, is it really?
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Interesting.
Yeah. It's kind of like an East Coast, East, the things we do on the East Coast are different than in the Midwest and the West Coast.
Okay.
Yeah, with different things. But so yeah, alcohol is run like in the IMCA modifieds, the 604s, the A mods, whatever you want to call them. Whereas
Okay.
the sport mods can't run alcohol. Yeah, I mean there's
All right.
different rules all over the country, but no, I mean alcohol's still cheaper, and since we can't run alcohol, that's why we have so much E85 these days, I think, because it's, the power is a little more equivalent, than yeah.
Mhm.
Fuel has been a big topic on this podcast for the last several years.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, we talked about fuel a bunch, but yeah, so but yeah, coming up, and it'd be great to have a fuel seminar, if we can get somebody to talk about. Actually, I know Renegade's going to be there, and they might be talking about, and I've talked to Tim there at Renegade or Valor Oil, who now owns them. I think they're going to do a seminar talking especially about E85. I think that's going to be really exciting. I
Oh,
mean,
awesome.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
if you're interested in running E85, you need to go to stuff like that, because the stuff that you're going to pick up, I mean, it's all the seminars. It's like it's always my attitude when I go to things. It's like, like I went to the Sign and Graphics trade show a few weeks ago. It's the fact that I might know a lot of the stuff that in there. I might actually maybe know more than some of the people in there, but I can guarantee you that I'm going to learn something.
yeah.
No,
Well, yeah.
even sometimes the smallest piece of information can change your life.
Mm-hmm.
If this is what you do all the time. So.
Well, I mean, it was cool. I mean, a couple of years ago, I got Dad to go to a welding workshop with me, who I'd never picked up a welder, but I think teaching somebody welding is kind of like teaching a friend to golf. Like it's just a bad idea. I mean, get somebody who's a professional instructor to do this, but had Dad go with me. And of course, not everybody would know this listening to the podcast, but our dad is a master fabricator. I mean, and if there's a Hall of Fame for fabricating, Dad would definitely be in that he's well known for being an amazing fabricator. But he never had the attitude, like sitting in that welding workshop with me, he didn't have the attitude like that he was better than anybody or whatever. And in fact, they had made up a chart about your welding settings. I mean, he knows how to do it from just like feel or whatever, but he's like, yeah, this is really handy information to have. I'm going to put this up on my wall in my shop. I'm like, oh wow. He's like, yeah, you're never too old or too accomplished to learn something. So
Absolutely.
that was just a really cool attitude that he brought to the table. So I didn't feel dumb or, if it was good information and even he learned something or probably relearned. It's not that he hasn't been taught that. And I think welding is just as much, it's a science, but it's also an art. But to pick something up, I just thought that was pretty cool.
Oh yeah. I think that's a great attitude to have.
Mm-hmm. Great. So yeah, let's wrap this up. So anybody who's interested in the Cars Racing Show, we've just tried to just switch gears this year. We're not doing pre-registration for attendees. You can just show up at the door and but get on our email list so we can remind you, watch the Facebook posts. Cars Racing Show is carsracingshow.com. And let's tell them really quick how it was started out as Cars, because you started the show back in like 2011. And what did Cars stand for?
It was originally Carolina Auto Racing Show.
Right. And
for the Charlotte Auto Racing Show.
Yeah.
1 year in Charlotte.
And then when we brought it back, we thought, well, Cars, there's a lapse there from 2013 to 2020. But when we brought it back, we're like, well, rather than trying to start a show with a whole different name that nobody's heard of, let's just use the name, but let's just call it Cars Racing Show. It's really not Carolina Auto Racing Show, but it's just cars. Like it is, it kind of just is what it is now. But yeah, so that's why we went with cars for
Just
the
cars. Just
Mhm.
cars.
Yeah. So, but the website is carsracingshow.com, and sign up to get on our email list so you'll get reminders, and definitely follow that Facebook page. Of course, I'm streaming here from the Crate Insider Facebook posts or Facebook page and the YouTube channel that has 1 million views now. Um, I don't have a million subscribers, but we have 1 million views. But those are our biggest audiences, so that's why we're here. And and Scott says, "Great show, guys." So thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, and back to the fuel. Steve says they run great on Pop 93. Okay, cool. But yeah, let's wrap up. Let people know where they can find you, Jimmy. Your
I'm usually,
website.
I'm usually here in my shop.
Okay.
Oh, my
Um,
website.
yeah,
I
on
didn't,
the
I don't. Do
on
I
the
even have a
interweb.
website? Weren't you supposed to make me a new website?
Well, you have one, and you have a
I,
Facebook page.
I
Yeah,
do.
I'll do that. Yeah, your Dirtwrap Facebook page.
Okay. Dirtwrap. Just Google Dirtwrap. One
Yep,
word. No
yep,
S on the end. Just Dirtwrap.
yeah.
So you can find me on the web. You can find me on Facebook. You can text me if you want to. My number is 828-228-9892. Texts are great.
Hmm.
'Cause I am on the phone a lot.
A
So
lot.
like, whatever, and not answer somebody's. I will return missed phone calls, stuff like that. But if you text me and say, "Hey, Jimmy, this is so and so, whatever, give me a call when you have a minute," that's when, that's the most productive, type thing. So I'm pretty responsive to that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the best way to do that. So yeah, definitely if you need to get a hold of Jimmy, you can go to dirtwrap.com or text his phone number. And of course, I'm at Crate Insider and we're both at Cars, so Cars Racing Show. Any questions on that? And we still have some vendor spots available. So or exhibitor spots. So if you're a racing company and you're looking for an opportunity to display at a trade show, our trade show is definitely grassroots racing, circle track, and mostly dirt. We'd like to bring in a little bit of asphalt, and some of these smaller cars would be a wonderful addition to the show. But for a big portion of our whole audience and our exhibitors that are exhibiting now, you can go to carsracingshow.com and you can see the list of exhibitors that are part of our show, and also see some pictures. We've got some pictures over on Facebook, so you can see images of the show. But we definitely want to see you there. And for anybody who's listening, thank you for whether you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We do go live with this show every Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. So if you ever want to join the show, you can find us on Crate Insider Facebook or YouTube channel. And that way you can join in on the conversation and get your comments in and everything else. So I think that about covers it. Any final words there, Jimmy?
Oh, this is fun. I could talk all day. This is a lot of fun.
Good, good.
And it's kind of fun to lay back and kind of talk about old racing stories and stuff like that. And weave it in with where we're at today and what we're doing with our contribution to the sport.
Mhm.
So yeah, all of that. I'd
Well,
do it again if you'd have me.
I'll have you back. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't have to drag any information out of you. We can just keep talking, so it's all good. Yeah, we went long today. So
Oh, was
yeah,
it? Oh, wow, yeah, hour and a
I
half.
know.
Everybody,
It flew
we're
by.
probably talking to ourselves. Everybody's probably
There's a few people here. Well,
right.
we'll wrap things up, and you can hang on the line for just a minute here, but we're going to wrap things up. And thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. Look forward to seeing you next week. I hope you all have a good one.